Okay, so let's talk about generative AI art. It's something lots of people have been talking about recently, although I think people have started to realize some of the limitations of things like ChatGPT and Midjourney, but there's still the general acceptance that this is gonna change everything. The question is how much? So lots of people have been talking about it, but here I'm talking about actually using it as part of the process of this video series. Generative AI art as a way of coming up with ideas for music videos, particularly the visual side of things. I say particularly the visual side of things. It's worth noting that I have been using what I guess you could call AI, although maybe it's more machine learning technology, in my audio recording for years and years. There's a number of plugins I've been using. Music software companies who have used machine learning to figure out what most tracks sound like. There's like a range of frequencies that most tracks have. Like the bass frequencies fall within a certain range, the mid frequencies fall within a certain range, the top frequencies fall within a certain range. It helps kind of give things perspective. Now, these tools are, I feel, like frequently wrong, or at least they make bizarre choices. But because I understand the tools pretty well, I can be like, that's weird. Why is it suddenly boosting the, oh, okay, this is a track that doesn't actually have any bass in and the AI doesn't realize that and is thinking that it does. So they're tools that do have limitations and I've already started to get comfortable with them. I also know this is the kind of track where these tools will be useful and this is the kind of track where they won't. And there are plenty of tracks where I don't need those tools, so I don't reach for them. Having said this, these tools are slightly different. They are very much technical tools for someone who is mixing and mastering. They're not creative tools in the same way. They're not creating art. And this is really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using things like Midjourney and Runway and Genmo and Kyber and these various new AI platforms. I'm talking about experimenting with them to come up with art. And this is a whole Pandora's box, and there's lots to talk about. I did actually play around with Midjourney for the backdrops of the Uptown Funk video. Now I'm thinking about leaning more into this. And I feel like there are some big advantages to generative AI art for this project and some big disadvantages. I'll start with the disadvantages. One of the things that blew my mind about Midjourney, particularly when I started out, was that you could do, imagine this particular picture as your prompt in the style of. And I was just like, wow, imagine, I don't know, like a tree in the style of Hayao Miyazaki. Imagine like a cat in the style of Hayao Miyazaki. Imagine everything in the style. And I just kind of got drunk on ripping off Studio Ghibli, I suppose. And that was fascinating to play with. And I think I didn't really have a problem with that because I was too busy being just mind blown by what the thing could do. I feel like this is the big issue at the moment with generative AI. It is the kind of intellectual property infringement side of things. Now, when this technology was first made available, I heard the argument made, I think by Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, etc., saying, well, really, this is no different to you learning how to draw like Hayao Miyazaki. It's just that a computer is doing it. But, we're not actually copying the stuff that he and his studio made. We're just learning how to make things in the same way. And to begin with, I think I was like, oh, okay, I guess. But as time has gone on, I think it's become clear to lots of people that that side of things, like how it was made, is not so much the point. The point is the result. If you ask a generative AI bot to create art and it has taken so much from the Getty photography archives that it actually has a little Getty watermark on it, it doesn't matter how it came up with it. Like that's copyright infringement. The result is the important thing. And I think this is one of the things, certainly from industry, and I've been talking with people about production music and how this is going to affect production music. Something that a production music library owner told me was that the CEOs of these companies would love robots to be able to create everything, but everyone else is a lot more suspicious, and particularly from an IP point of view. Corporations don't want to invest in generative AI and then get sued because laws have been developed that say, don't care how you made this, if this is too similar to that, it's infringement. I mean, basically, when it comes to IP law, no one knows where this is going to go. And I think that's why there's a lot of caution. And this is the main thing I am being cautious about. I will not be using any generative AI with a prompt that says in the style of a specific person or a specific group of people. And I think partly that's kind of concern about IP infringement, but more I feel it's just a straightforward ethical thing. That does feel like ripping someone else off, whether the law catches up to that or not. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be cautious about. I'm also going to try to use, probably and start off mainly focusing on Midjourney and then finding ways to bring those still Midjourney images to life. I'm going to try to avoid creating them in any one person or group of people's style. That's going to be a really important thing. It is worth mentioning, I've kind of been on both sides of this. I have found Midjourney a fascinating tool to play with, but also I've made stock music on the Pond5 website. And one of the first things that happened when the big generative AI thing came along was they sent out an email to the composers on the site saying, oh yeah, we've used your tracks to create our generative AI models, check the contract. And so I've already made stuff which has kind of been training my replacement in the stock field. And I don't entirely know how I feel about that. Part of me feels like, well, that's kind of the stock game. What do you expect? But anyway, so I know what it feels like to have that happen to your own work. And I can very much see the logic that there should be laws to make sure that creators, be that composers, artists, whatever, whose work is used to train AI models should be compensated in some way or form. But yeah, I feel like that's the thing to be really cautious of. There's also straightforwardly the thing that I don't want to accidentally create using generative AI tools, art which gets me sued. You know, it's something I want to get into a habit of being careful of. So that's the disadvantage. What are the advantages of using it? Well, the advantages, I think, specifically are for this kind of music video, which is created by, at the moment, a sole creator, me. This, I feel, is what generative AI is perfect for. What I feel like I am doing is the opposite of what a Hollywood director is doing. Let's pick Christopher Nolan, for example. Hollywood directors are often telling stories that are fantastical about extraordinary people in extraordinary circumstances that it's quite easy to feel like that would never happen. That's not real. So it's really important for the directors to convince you that what's happening is real. And one of the best ways of doing that is to shoot as much in camera as possible. And if you're going to add effects, just do them very slightly in post-production, but don't rely on lots of green screen. Just try and make the thing happen. Try and Ridley Scott it, try and Christopher Nolan it. Get everything in camera. What I feel like I'm trying to do in music videos is provide visuals for songs that are generally about everyday life. And it's trying to pick on things in everyday life that are interesting and kind of amplify them and often kind of glamorize them and say, look, the ordinary intimate moments in our lives are worth focusing on and glamorizing. And that's part of what I'm trying to do in music videos. So I am not trying to take the fantastical and make it seem believable. I'm trying to take the ordinary and make it seem kind of glamorous and interesting. So for that, visual effects, I don't need to worry about everything looking convincing. In fact, I feel very happy with things looking a bit artificial and things looking a bit stagey, a bit theatrical. rather than realistic. So it feels like it's taking an element of real life, focusing on it, and then dialing it up a little bit. That's what I'm interested in doing. So generative AI gives me the potential to just be wildly imaginative, not worry about logistics, not worry about making it look realistic. It'll be janky around the edges. It'll probably be janky in the middle. It'll just be janky, but it means I can come up with these kind of wild ideas.